The pregnant widow moved into the desert shack, and the sand remembered her voice. This is a true story, and I know it sounds impossible, but every moment I'm about to share really happened to me in Dusty Hollow, Arizona, during the harrowing summer of 2015. Before I continue this true supernatural account, subscribe to hear the full story that shook the very foundations of my understanding of life and death. The walls of that fated shack whispered with a life of their own, gently echoing my name in soft, sorrowful tones. It was as if the very structure mourned alongside me, mourning not just my loss, but the collective grief of countless souls who had passed through that space long before I arrived. Every evening, just as the sun dipped below the horizon and cast a haunting golden glow over the desert, the temperature would drop sharply, leaving a bone-chilling cold against my skin, despite the relentless heat outside. I could smell a mix of blooming desert flowers and something acrid, almost like burnt sage. It was a scent that both comforted and unsettled me, a reminder of the strange and tangled relationship I had with the world around me. A metallic taste flooded my mouth as I approached the old well in the backyard, an uninvited reminder of the tragedy I had experienced. Not only the loss of my husband, but also the bitter reality of being pregnant and alone in this desolate place. With no money and nowhere else to go, I thought this dilapidated shack would be my sanctuary, the perfect refuge for my weary soul. But soon, I realized the very earth beneath me seemed to recognize my pain. Vibrations coursed through the ground, revealing memories suspended in time as the sand shifted like a restless ghost beneath my feet. The silence of the desert was deafening, and yet it was filled with whispers, shadows of lives lived and lost, intermingled with my own despair. I was merely an intruder in their space, feeling the weight of countless eyes watching from the cracks in the walls, observing my every move with a silent intensity that sent shivers down my spine. As the darkness settled in each night, the objects around me trembled with an ominous energy. I could swear I felt a cold hand brushing against my arm, sending a jolt of fear coursing through me. Each morning, I awoke to discover bruises forming on my skin, stark reminders of the presence that sought to claim me for reasons I couldn't comprehend. I felt I was being watched, not merely by the desert itself, which seemed alive with secrets, but by something much darker lingering just out of reach. In those moments, my grandmother's stories about spirits and echoes surged to the forefront of my mind. I remembered her gentle voice, weaving tales of those who had come before, the lessons she had instilled within me intertwined with the reality I was now facing. The sands of time held stories woven with heartache and wisdom that might help me if I could just make the connection. Closing my eyes, I envisioned her guiding presence, a voice echoing softly in the back of my mind. "Listen closely, my dear." That recollection served as a lifeline in the grip of my mounting dread. It wasn't long before I made the decision to confront the eerie sensations enveloping me. Taking a deep breath, I called out into the oppressive silence that surrounded me. "What do you want from me?" At that moment, the air thickened, the temperature plummeting as an unsettling chill engulfed me. The shack fell into a heavy silence, my heart racing as I stepped into a realm where fear and courage collided. Just as I began to lose hope, the echoes responded, softly at first, then swelling into a chorus of whispers that danced through the air. Multiple voices harmonized, revealing stories of sorrow and longing, each one more tragic than the last, each a fragment of a life that once was, seeking acknowledgement. The ground beneath me shimmered with energy, the whispers intensifying, pulling my focus deeper into the haunting tales that radiated from the very fabric of the shack. I was no longer just a spectator to these manifestations. I was becoming part of them. Each revelation enveloped me, intertwining my grief with theirs, crafting an unbreakable bond amidst the shadows of despair. As I stood there, the deep chill surrounded me, shifting into a strange sense of hope, one that encouraged me to uncover what lay hidden beneath the surface of my fear. As I lingered in that silence, each heartbeat echoed against the walls, a reminder of my presence in a place thick with untold stories. A shiver ran down my spine as the air grew dense with unspoken words. The shadows in the corners shifted, and I felt a surge of courage born from the primal instinct to protect my unborn child. "What do you want from me?" I shouted into the void, my voice breaking the stillness like a shockwave. The cold wrapped itself around me, tightening with each beat of my heart. Suddenly, a faint scratching sound broke through the silence, sending a rush of adrenaline coursing through my veins. Clenching my fists, I stepped toward the source of the sound, the floor creaking ominously beneath my weight. The fragile light from the window danced, casting long, whispering shadows across the floor. As I edged closer, a glimmer caught my eye, an old wooden box tucked in the corner, half hidden in the dust and shadows. My breath hitched with curiosity and trepidation. I knelt down, brushing away the grime that had gathered over years of neglect. Intricately carved symbols adorned its surface, hinting at secrets locked away, years forgotten. This box felt alive, pulsating with energy, beckoning me to uncover its story. Carefully lifting the lid, I found a collection of mundane items: a cracked mirror, a faded photograph, and a small, ornate jewelry box. My hands trembled as I picked up the photograph. It depicted a woman who could have been my twin, cradling a child in her arms. Tears streamed down her cheeks, and I felt an overwhelming wave of sorrow crash over me, leaving me breathless. As I gazed at the photo, the air shifted again, thickening with a hush that felt heavy with history. An avalanche of memories rushed to the forefront of my mind: lost laughter, solemn farewells, and unfulfilled dreams. I pressed my palms against my ears, desperate to drown out the torrent, but the whispers grew louder, wrapping around me like a shroud. "Stop, please!" I cried out, fighting against the emotional onslaught. In that moment, the cacophony ceased, replaced by a pregnant silence, heavy with anticipation. The presence I felt before hovered close, neither threatening nor benign, simply curious. I wiped my tears, lifting my gaze slowly to the shadows that embraced me. They no longer felt intimidating. Instead, they seemed to invite me to listen, to understand the collective grief swirling around me. "Tell me your stories," I implored softly, the words trembling on my lips. In response, the chilly air warmed gradually, as if in approval of my willingness to connect. I sensed the energy shift, the shack itself exhaling a sigh of relief. For the first time, I felt myself within the stories, no longer an outsider, but a part of the interwoven fabric of sorrow that encompassed this place. As days passed, I delved into the histories buried within those walls. Each story I unearthed carried echoes of lost love, longing glances, and dreams deferred, further intertwining my reality with theirs. I learned about the lives that had inhabited the shack, about families shattered by the relentless challenges of desert life. Their struggles mirrored my own, lost hopes and dreams, reminding me that despair had not merely been my own burden to shoulder. One evening, as I sat cross-legged on the dusty floor, my heart swelling with empathy, I spoke to the spirits that lingered in the house. "I wish to know more. I want to heal with you," I whispered into the twilight. In that quiet moment, I felt a soft breeze wash over me, gentle as a caress, washing away my fear and replacing it with a sense of purpose. The understanding washed over me like a wave. The stories I had initially feared were not merely haunting specters. They were echoes yearning for acknowledgement. The shack held secrets of resilience and heartbreak, waiting to be validated. I realized that recognizing their pain would free my heart as well. Yet, just as I began to embrace this newfound reality, an abrupt shift sent a shudder through the atmosphere. The temperature in the shack plunged, a bone-deep cold wrapping around me like a shroud. Dark feelings clawed at my chest, twisting my heart as despair began to seep into my very soul once more. Shadows deepened, and with them came a cacophony of anxious whispers warning me of despair lurking just beneath the surface. Despite the fear, I forced myself to remain. I sensed that everything I had encountered thus far had led to this pivotal moment. I was teetering on the edge of acknowledgement, between fear and understanding. "What do you want?" I shouted, struggling to hold my ground against the imminent darkness pressing in on me. A voice, barely above a whisper, broke through the terror, revealing itself in a haunting echo. "We seek to be remembered," it implored, each word laced with sorrow. I clutched my chest, tears cascading down my cheeks. It was no longer about me. It was their stories of existence that needed liberation. In that moment, the shadows that had once seemed threatening solidified into forms, figures of those lost to time, their expressions etched with endless yearning. They were no longer hauntings. They were companions, inviting me to walk through this journey alongside them. "I will remember you," I promised, my voice steady as the warmth enveloped me once more. "I will share your stories." In that commitment, I felt the shack itself vibrate. A collective sigh of relief echoed through the walls, harmonizing with the souls that had waited so long for someone to listen. And with that moment of understanding, I recognized that healing begins not just with acknowledgement, but with embracing the shadows as part of the whole, the intertwining of my story with theirs, crafting a future that held hope rather than despair. Together, we would find a way forward beneath the dark, star-strewn desert sky. As I basked in the warmth of the spirits surrounding me, the air thrummed with a newfound energy, a connection forged through shared pain and purpose. The shack, once oppressive, transformed into a sanctuary, a bridge between the living and the departed. Each breath I took felt filled with the stories yearning to be told, and I knew this was the beginning of something profound, a healing journey, not just for myself, but for them. Yet, just as I embraced this reality, an unsettling chill swept through the room. The temperature plummeted again, coiling around me like icy fingers. Unease enveloped me as a cacophony of anxious whispers rose, warning of shadows lurking just beneath the surface, ready to grip me once more. Despite the rising tide of fear, I steeled my resolve. What I faced here was not just specters of the past, but a pivotal moment in my own awakening, a beckoning into the depths of understanding. "What do you want?" I shouted into the thickening darkness, my voice trembling as I fought against the encroaching despair. A voice, fragile yet resonant, transmitted through the air, filled with raw emotion. "We seek to be remembered," it implored, each syllable laced with sorrow. Chills coursed down my spine as I clutched my chest, tears streaming down my cheeks. I felt their pain, their longing more acutely than ever before. This wasn't just my struggle. It was a profound tapestry woven of forgotten lives, longing for acknowledgement. Suddenly, the shadows surrounding me began to solidify, revealing the forms of those lost to time. Their faces, etched with yearning and marked by sorrow, no longer felt threatening. Instead, they extended their hands, inviting me into their stories. They were not just hauntings, they were my companions on this journey towards understanding. "I will remember you," I vowed, my voice steady despite the overwhelming weight of the moment. "I will share your stories." As these words left my lips, I felt the very walls of the shack vibrate, a collective sigh echoing through the space, intertwining my existence with theirs. They had waited so long for someone to listen, and in that moment, I knew I would carry them with me. With each promise uttered, I understood that healing began not solely with acknowledgement, but by embracing these shadows as integral parts of our shared existence. I would weave their narratives into my own, creating a future that held hope rather than despair. As the shadows radiated warmth and acceptance, Mariana stepped forward, her spirit gentle yet commanding. "We need you," she urged, her voice a soft melody amidst the chaos of emotions swirling around us. "Gather those who can help us share our truths." "What do you need me to do?" I responded, feeling a surge of determination. This was no longer just my quest to understand. It was a mission to resurrect voices silenced by time. Mariana gestured to the window. "Outside, beneath the night sky, are those who will listen. The desert holds many seekers. You must reach out to them, to remind them of their roots." I turned to the darkened landscape outside, illuminated only by the faint slivers of moonlight. The vastness of the desert loomed like a canvas, filled with stories waiting to emerge. "I will tell them," I assured her, a growing sense of purpose igniting within me. "I will gather those who seek to remember." With renewed vigor, I began to close my eyes, focusing on the lives that intersected with mine and the messages needed to be shared. Images flooded my mind, memories of people who had shaped my past, friends who had walked beside me as shadows, prompting the significance of our stories. I envisioned gatherings under the stars where we could all share and connect. Each pulse of my heart felt like a promise, an oath that together we would uncover the lost tales of this place. I grasped my own lineage, realizing that their pain mirrored my struggles and inviting them to intertwine our stories. In that moment, I understood something crucial. The barriers between our realities were thinning as I embraced my role as a storyteller. I couldn't keep these stories confined to this shack. They needed to see the light of day, to flutter on the winds of the desert until they reached the hearts of those willing to listen. "What if I fail?" I asked, vulnerability creeping in despite the growing resolve. Mariana smiled softly, her eyes gleaming with encouragement. "You are not alone. We will be with you, guiding you." The warmth of the spirits enveloped me, bolstering my strength, reminding me that this journey was as much theirs as it was mine. With a deep breath, I opened my eyes. I no longer felt the suffocating dread. Instead, I felt a swirl of energy, dancing with potential. Rising to my feet, I straightened my shoulders. "Let's do this," I declared, clarity sparking the fire of determination in my belly. It was time to reclaim the lost stories, to weave their narratives into my own, so that the winds of change could carry them into the hearts of a new generation. I stepped into the night, ready to share what I learned under the star-strewn sky. Each journey into the stories would bring me closer to understanding not just their pain, but also the power of remembrance and connection. In this union of lives past and present, where shadows met light, I knew we would all find our way to healing together. The cool desert air kissed my cheeks as I stepped out of the shack, the vastness of the night sky stretching endlessly above me. Each star twinkled like a forgotten memory, a reminder of lives once lived and stories yearning to be told. As I walked towards the horizon, a sense of urgency pulsed through me. I needed to gather those willing to listen, those who might carry these truths into the world. With each step, I recalled faces from my past, friends and family, individuals I had connected with deeply. They were the perfect audience, the ones I could draw into this narrative of remembrance. I clutched my phone in my hand, its screen glowing softly, illuminating my path. The thought of inviting others into this journey ignited a thrill within me. "First, I'll reach out to Karim," I murmured to myself. He had always shown an interest in stories of the past, in the layers of history that shaped people's lives. I tapped his name and sent a quick message. "I need your help. There are stories to uncover. Can we meet?" The response came almost instantaneously. "Of course. Where and when?" My heart lifted at his willingness. "Tonight, at the old cafe. Bring your notebook. I have something important to share." I sent a few more messages to other friends, inviting them into this shared quest. Each time I pressed send, I felt the spirits around me, a comforting presence bolstering my resolve. I was not just sharing stories. I was igniting a movement, a collective effort to honor those who had come before us. As I reached the cafe, the faint light from its windows spilled into the night, a warm beacon of hope. The familiar scent of coffee intertwined with the sweet aroma of baked goods, grounding me as I stepped inside. Karim was already seated at a table, his notebook open and ready, eyes gleaming with curiosity. "Hey, you look like you've seen a ghost," he joked, but the sincerity in his gaze made it clear he was genuinely interested in what I had to say. "I might have," I replied, my voice low but steady. "I found something important tonight. Stories that need to be acknowledged." Our conversation flowed easily as I shared my experience in the shack, the connections I had forged with the spirits lingering within its walls. I looked into Karim's eyes as I described Mariana and the weight of her longing, feeling the urgency of the mission swell within me. "These stories belong to them, and they need to be shared," I emphasized, my passion igniting the atmosphere around us. Karim shifted in his seat, his expression contemplative. "So what's the next step? Do you want to do a public gathering, like a storytelling night?" "That's exactly it," I exclaimed, the idea taking root. "We could invite others who would appreciate these stories, maybe even those with their own tales to tell. We can create a space for healing and connection." His eyes sparkled with excitement, and together we began brainstorming ideas, a community event in the park, under the stars, where anyone could come, share their stories, and remember those who had been lost. Karim jotted down notes, ideas flowing like water. Before long, we had a plan in place. We exchanged tasks, deciding on the logistics and how best to promote the gathering. I would use social media, and he would reach out to local organizations. It felt invigorating. Together, we were building something bigger than ourselves. As we worked late into the night, our conversation shifted to personal stories, anecdotes from our childhood, triumphs and failures, each thread weaving into the larger fabric of heritage and memory. I began to notice that every story shared, every memory recollected, seemed to resonate with the presence of the spirits I had encountered. "Every story tells us who we are," I reflected, the idea echoing in my heart. "In some way, they're all connected, just like we are." As the cafe's lights dimmed, signaling closing time, I glanced at the clock. "I should go," I said reluctantly, though my heart was filled with purpose. "Tomorrow is when we start making this real." "Let's meet early. We have a lot to do," Karim said, his enthusiasm contagious. Once outside, I took a moment to breathe in the crisp evening air, filled with the promise of change. Each step felt like a vow to honor the spirits that had guided me. As I made my way home, I could almost hear their muted laughter blending with the wind, a reminder of the shared journey ahead. That night, I fell into a deep sleep, dreams swirling with faces and voices, the beginnings of a tapestry woven from the past. I saw those lost souls once more, watching proudly from the shadows as I prepared to share their stories with the world. It was a new dawn, and I felt buoyed by the conviction that together we could reclaim their narratives, turning loss into legacy, narrative into healing. With the sun rising, I felt it was time to step boldly into this newfound purpose, leading a movement that would echo through the generations, ensuring that those who had come before were never forgotten. The sun broke over the horizon, casting a warm glow across the desert as I prepared to meet Karim. Today was pivotal. We were set to bring our vision to life, a gathering dedicated to celebrating the lost stories that needed to be shared. Dressed in my favorite sweater, I felt a mix of determination and excitement. I grabbed my phone and sent a flurry of messages to the friends and family I hoped would join us. "We're having a storytelling night. Bring your memories," I typed, my heart racing at the prospect of uniting those willing to listen and share. When I arrived at the cafe, Karim was already busy arranging our meeting space. The community room brimmed with warmth and character, a perfect backdrop for our event. "Look at this place. It's perfect for what we have planned," he said, his enthusiasm infectious. We need to go through our plan, I suggested as I unpacked notebooks and pens. We dove into details like welcoming our guests, how to guide the storytelling, and ensuring everyone felt safe to express themselves. This gathering felt vital. It was not just an event, it was a lifeline for many. As we worked, word about our event spread like wildfire. Friends began confirming they'd come, their excitement growing. I could visualize the diverse crowd. Elders with rich histories, youth seeking connections to their roots, and those like me drawn to the shadows of the past. We decided to dedicate a corner of the room for a memorial table where attendees could place photos or personal mementos of loved ones lost. A visual reminder that each story shared was woven into our community's tapestry. The day of the gathering arrived, filling the air with electric anticipation. As I stood outside the cafe, the twilight sky deepening, I sensed undeniable energy. People streamed in, their faces lit with a mix of hope and eagerness, each one ready to remember and reconnect. I opened the event by sharing my personal journey, how I connected with the spirits in the shack and the inspiration for our gathering. As I spoke, I felt threads of empathy binding us, a shared yearning to honor our memories. One by one, attendees began sharing their stories. An elderly man spoke of his ancestors, weaving a rich narrative of resilience. A young woman poured her heart out about her struggles with loss, each word steeped in raw honesty. Laughter, tears, and moments of silence filled the space, creating an emotional bond between us. Listening to these narratives, I was struck by how intertwined our lives were. Each story resonated with echoes of the spirits, reinforcing the idea that we are all connected through our experiences. As the evening unfolded, I took a moment outside to breathe in the crisp air and reflect. The sense of sage and earth grounded me, reminding me this night was about honoring those who came before us. I whispered, "This is for you," thinking of Mariana and the other spirits guiding our path. Returning indoors, I noticed Karim enthusiastically engaging with the crowd. We had created a genuine community, a beautiful connection forged through our shared experiences. As the gathering continued, we eventually formed a circle under the stars, symbolizing our unity. Holding hands, I suggested we take a moment to honor the memories of those we had lost. In that silence, I felt a wave of energy wash over us. It was as if the spirits recognized our intention, intertwining with our collective remembrance. The faint breeze carried whispers, urging us to continue sharing and connecting. After our moment of silence, the atmosphere shifted back to lively laughter and conversation. This was the profound bond we had created. We weren't just sharing stories, we were healing one another. "Well, this went even better than I could have imagined," Karim said, his grin contagious. "I know, we're just getting started," I replied, my heart swelling with pride and purpose. Looking around at the vibrant expressions and spirited discussions, I knew this was a movement, one that would ripple through our community and beyond. We had reclaimed lost narratives, turning sorrow into connection and legacy into healing. As the gathering drew to a close, I felt invigorated. We had not merely honored the past, we were shaping our future by ensuring these stories would never be forgotten. It was time to embrace this journey fully, knowing that together, we would continue to carry the light forward, echoing the lives of those who had come before us. This was just the beginning, and I couldn't wait to see where this movement would take us next. As the evening came to a gentle close, the stars twinkled brightly overhead, guiding us back from our shared experience. People began to drift away, exchanging warm hugs and promises to reconnect, their voices mingling with the soft rustle of leaves in the night air. I lingered a moment, overwhelmed by the energy we had cultivated. It felt as if every story shared had left an imprint on my heart, a reminder that we were not alone in our journeys. I turned to Karim, who was surveying the aftermath of our gathering. "I think we did something amazing tonight," I said, my voice still buzzing with excitement. "Absolutely. But can we do it again?" he asked, enthusiasm radiating from his smile. "We need to keep this going. There are so many more stories waiting to be told." His words sent a shiver of inspiration down my spine. Yes, this was just the beginning. The idea of making storytelling a regular celebration invigorated me. I nodded, already imagining how to organize future gatherings, ways to amplify our voices and broaden our reach. Every ounce of that energy from tonight's stories demanded to be shared again. "Let's brainstorm some ideas for our next event," I suggested, pulling out my notebook and flipping to a fresh page. We began jotting down thoughts, themes, guest speakers, perhaps even inviting local artists to perform. The possibilities felt boundless, and I couldn't help but smile at how quickly excitement ignited between us. As we planned, I recalled the faces of those who had shared their stories, their vulnerability, their strength. I remembered how deeply their words resonated with everyone present. It was an awakening, both for them and for me. Each narrative peeled back layers of silence, allowing healing to seep through the cracks. In that moment of inspiration, the door swung open and a woman stepped inside, her face illuminated by the cafe's soft light. It was Angela, a friend I hadn't seen in years. Her eyes shimmered with unspoken tales. "Couldn't resist coming back. I need to know what happened here tonight," she said, her voice filled with curiosity. Karim and I exchanged delighted glances. It was incredible. We shared stories, honored memories. "It was a beautiful night," I replied, beckoning her closer. As she settled at our table, her presence added a new energy. We filled her in on the event's highlights, and as the conversation flowed, I sensed her becoming lost in the memories of her past, a tinge of sadness clouding her expression. "I've always been afraid to share my own story," Angela admitted, almost sheepishly. "I've lost so much, my mom, my brother. It's still hard." "Angela, you should tell us. You don't have to carry that alone," Karim encouraged gently, his sincerity wrapping around her like a comforting hug. She took a deep breath, grappling with emotion. "I just feel like I'll never do their stories justice. What if it hurts too much?" I leaned forward. "But that's the power of storytelling. It honors their lives. It keeps that connection alive, and you never know who else it might help." I paused, searching her eyes. "We created a space for healing tonight. You can do it too." Slowly, she began to share her memories, her mother's laughter, her brother's adventures, each word a delicate thread weaving into our communal tapestry. The way she recounted their quirks, shared anecdotes, and the weight of her loss transformed her sadness into a shared experience. I noticed a shifting in her energy. The burden seemed just a bit lighter as she spoke. As she shared, the air sparkled with an ethereal presence, and I sensed the spirits gathering around us again, encouraging her confessions. I felt Mariana's warmth near me, a gentle reminder that the act of sharing was powerful, not just for the storyteller, but for all who were listening. When Angela finally finished, tears glistened in her eyes, yet she wore a newfound strength. "Thank you for listening. I've held that in for too long." I reached for her hand, squeezing it gently. "Your story is a gift to us all. You've honored their lives tonight, and we are so grateful you shared." In that moment, with tears mingling with laughter and a sense of profound connection enveloping us, it became clear. The act of storytelling was transforming lives. Each confession, each shared experience formed a bridge, a lifeline connecting us to one another and the spirits of those we had lost. As we wrapped up our gathering, I felt a renewed sense of purpose sweep over me. We needed to promote this healing journey further, reach more people, create more moments where souls could connect, share their burdens, and lighten their hearts. Karim and I exchanged plans for reaching out to local community centers and online forums to expand our audience. I was excited by the thoughts of themes we could explore: legacy, love, loss, and how our gatherings could become a beacon of hope. As I stepped back into the cool night, looking up at the stars once more, I felt overwhelming gratitude bubbling up within me. Tonight had proven that every story mattered, that every voice deserved to be heard, and together we would keep the conversation alive, echoing through the generations. This was more than just a series of events. It was a movement grounded in connection, healing, and remembrance. I knew deep down that we would continue to carry the light forward, illuminating the paths for those to come, our shared histories forever intertwined in a vast and beautiful tapestry. As days turned into weeks, the energy birthed from that powerful gathering continued to resonate within me. Every night, I felt compelled to sit down and reflect, assembling my thoughts, jotting down ideas, and adapting our vision into something tangible, something that could truly encapsulate the essence of what we were creating. Karim and I met frequently, planning our next gathering. We expanded our vision beyond simply telling stories. We aimed to craft an experience that would deepen connections between participants. To strengthen our network, we decided to incorporate various elements into our gatherings: music, art, perhaps even local ancestry discussions that would provide context to the stories shared. One evening, as I scrolled through social media, I stumbled upon artwork that depicted the ancestral ties of different cultures. It struck me how art is another form of storytelling, a canvas woven with history, emotions, and experiences. Inspired, I shared this idea with Karim. What if we invite local artists to showcase their work at our next gathering? Their pieces could complement our storytelling, expanding the layers of connection even further. His eyes lit up. That's brilliant. We could even have a segment where they explain how their culture influences their art. It would enrich the narrative, he replied, his excitement infectious. I made a list of local artists and reached out, feeling a thrill of anticipation. Each email sent out was a personal invitation to broaden our creative community. I knew deep down that their contributions would deepen the emotional resonance of our gatherings, transforming them into multifaceted experiences of connection and healing. As responses started pouring in, I felt invigorated. One of the artists, Lucia, wrote back expressing her own story of grief and how her art had been a means of coping with loss. The way she poured her heart into her work reminded me of the emotional weight we all carried, waiting to be expressed. On the evening of our next gathering, the atmosphere buzzed with vibrant anticipation. We transformed our meeting space into a gallery, art adorning the walls, each piece telling its own story. Tables were adorned with cloths of rich colors, exuding a cultural warmth that welcomed all who entered. As our guests arrived, I noticed their faces light up, eyes widening in curiosity as they soaked in the art that adorned the room. This gathering felt different. It felt alive in new ways. I had invited Lucia to lead a discussion before storytelling began, and as she took the floor, her passion was palpable. "I use the brush to express what I cannot say in words," she shared, her eyes shining with intensity. "Each stroke is a memory, a longing. In sharing my art, I hope to connect with others and acknowledge our shared experience of loss." Her words resonated deeply within each of us. Stories began to weave through the space, like threads connecting us all. I watched faces change, emotions surface, as the art sparked conversations and brought forth memories. Once the gallery was opened for contemplation, I saw people moved, glancing thoughtfully at pieces that evoked fleeting memories of their own. It was as if the entire room had transformed into a living tapestry of collective healing. When the storytelling began, the format shifted a bit. This time, music filled the air. Soft, haunting melodies that seemed to linger in the backdrop of each tale told. The stories flowed effortlessly, participants sharing their histories while occasionally referencing the artwork that moved them. Each story shared felt like a ripple, reaching into the depths of our collective consciousness. A man named David shared a heart-wrenching narrative about his grandmother, and as he spoke, he gestured toward a vibrant painting that encapsulated her spirit. "This is her," he said, pointing. The colors embody her laughter, the chaos of her life, even the love that filled our home. Tears welled in many eyes, including mine. Every story fascinated me, each one holding a piece of our shared human experience. The art didn't merely accompany the tales, it deepened the emotional connection, adding texture and vibrancy to our narrative tapestry. As the night progressed, I felt a burgeoning sense of unity among everyone present. Grief intermingled with joy, sorrow transformed into laughter, and each voice felt crucial in our collaborative effort to heal. Like a symphony orchestra, every contribution created a richer, more beautiful piece of music together. As I glanced around, witnessing the connections forming, I thought about all the threads of stories woven throughout the evening, both in spoken word and brushstrokes. It was a testament to how deeply our lives intersected, much like how a single thread can only do so much alone. But when woven together, it creates something stronger, more lasting. We closed the evening with another moment of silence, honoring the memories we bore. I led us in a collective pledge, a promise to carry these memories with us, igniting a spark that would keep the stories alive. When the gathering finally came to an end, tired smiles danced across faces, the spark of community glowing brightly amid our shared connection. As the last guests trickled out into the night, I took a moment to bask in the satisfaction of what we had created. It was then I realized that this was more than just an event. It was a sanctuary, a haven where stories could be told, art could flourish, and spirits could be honored without fear or judgment. Walking away that evening, I knew this movement was gaining legs. It reverberated beyond walls, echoing into the hearts of everyone who came. The future glimmered wide open, filled with potential and promise. I could feel Mariana and the other spirits enveloping us, their whispers encouraging us onward. We weren't just preserving memories, we were actively shaping our legacy. There was still much to unravel, to explore, and to share. And together, we would keep this beautiful tapestry unfolding, intertwining our lives along the way, each thread honoring those who had walked before us. The journey had only just begun. In the weeks that followed our gathering, I sensed a transformative energy building around us, a wave of inspiration rippling through the community. I immersed myself in planning the next event, each day sparking new ideas about how storytelling and art could intertwine to foster deeper connections among us. One sunny afternoon, Karim burst into my home, his enthusiasm infectious. "I have fantastic news. The community center loved our proposal. They want to host our next event." My heart raced. "That's amazing. We can invite different communities to share their stories and use art to connect those narratives." Karim nodded eagerly. "Imagine if we had workshops for people to express themselves creatively. We could invite local musicians and historians to add depth to each story." With renewed vigor, we mapped out the details for our upcoming gathering. Invitations were sent, local artists contacted, and the venue transformed into a welcoming haven to showcase art and creativity. On the day of the event, the energy in the community center buzzed with anticipation. Families engaged in lively conversations, children darted through the hallways, and artists prepared their works for display. I took a moment to revel in the vibrant atmosphere that enveloped the space. As we kicked off the gathering, I stood before the audience with a heart full of gratitude. "Welcome, everyone. Today, we celebrate the stories that connect us, honoring lives lived and memories shared," I said, watching smiles blossom across familiar faces. An array of workshops unfolded, filled with laughter and creativity. Participants explored art that represented their journeys, and I moved among the tables, soaking in the camaraderie. It was incredible to witness connections being forged as stories merged through each act of expression. When it was time for the storytelling segment, my excitement soared. We formed a circle, creating an intimate space where vulnerability could flourish. Each person who stood to speak shared profound stories of joy, struggle, and resilience. A young woman detailed her family's journey through migration, recalling heartwarming moments of love and sacrifice. An elderly man shared tales of his youth, growing up in a world that had changed drastically. Each narrative hit home, weaving a tapestry of shared experiences. The atmosphere pulsated with emotion as we embraced both tears and laughter. After one particularly poignant story, music floated in from the corner of the room. I looked over to see a local musician, his guitar resonating with soft melodies that seemed to echo our collective feelings. The music deepened our connection, wrapping around our stories and creating a reflective backdrop for our shared moment. As the last note lingered in the air, a profound silence enveloped us. All the weight of the stories told resonated deeply in our hearts. It became an unbroken bond, where each tale became a voice in the chorus of our community history. We closed the event with a pledge, reminding each other to carry these stories into the world, nurturing the connections we forged. As guests began to leave, the sense of unity was palpable, their hearts renewed and their spirits lifted. Walking outside, the cool evening air embraced me, and I gazed at the stars shimmering above. Each star seemed to represent a story, a life lived, and the promise of more connections to come. I realized then that we were crafting a future built on these narratives, our history becoming a foundation for growth. This was not just an event, it had blossomed into something bigger, a movement where every voice could resonate. Our journey would continue, igniting hope and connection in ways yet to unfold. Together, we were weaving a rich tapestry of life, honoring our past while paving the way for future generations to share their stories. In that moment, I felt Mariana's presence, her encouragement echoing within me. It was a reminder that the journey was not only about preserving memories, but about actively shaping a legacy that intertwined our lives, a living story that would honor those who came before us while nurturing a path for those who would follow. As I embraced this new chapter, I recognized we had only just begun to unravel the richness of our shared experiences. As the weeks transitioned into months, the effects of our last gathering rippled through the community like a wave of inspiration. Everywhere I went, I noticed conversations that sparked more than small talk. People exchanged stories over coffees at the local cafe and during evening walks, sharing intimate details of their lives with newfound enthusiasm. It seemed that a tide of courage had swept through, encouraging individuals to speak up and share their truths. Karim and I recognized that we needed to seize this momentum. An idea took shape in our minds, a collaborative project culminating in a community book that would showcase our diverse narratives. One brimming with heartfelt stories, artwork, and photographs that captured the essence of our shared experiences. One sunny afternoon, we sat at our favorite cafe, excitement bubbling between us. What if we create a book featuring stories and illustrations from everyone who has participated? I proposed, my heart racing at the possibilities. We could conduct workshops to help people articulate their narratives and eventually publish it for the whole community to cherish. Absolutely, and we can sell it to raise funds for local charities, supporting those who need help while celebrating our experiences, Karim added, his enthusiasm contagious. With our plan set, we shared an open call for submissions, inviting community members to contribute their stories no matter how long or short. The responses poured in. Heartfelt tales of love, loss, and resilience filled our inbox. I was particularly moved by a submission from a woman named Sophia, who wrote candidly about her journey as an immigrant. Her words revealed the heartache of leaving her homeland, laced with dreams of providing a better life for her children. Karim, you have to read Sophia's story, I exclaimed as I rushed to share my excitement. It's so powerful. It truly captures the spirit of what we want to achieve. As we formatted and edited the submissions, I felt an unwavering connection to our community blossom. We decided to include artists from our gatherings, inviting them to create illustrations that would visually bring each story to life. This collaboration intertwined our creative energies, fostering a deeper sense of partnership among us. Soon, we realized that we should host a launch event for the book, a celebration that would honor all contributors. The thought electrified me. What better way to connect the community than through an event specifically dedicated to our shared narratives? As the launch day approached, I watched the transformation of our community center into a vibrant space filled with stories and art. Each corner welcomed guests with framed narratives and illustrations, creating an immersive experience that embodied the spirit of our project. On the day of the launch, excitement buzzed in the air. Guests filled the center, mingling and admiring the artwork that adorned the walls. As I stood before the crowd, anticipation swirled inside me. Welcome, everyone, to our celebration of stories. Today, we embrace our shared journeys and the power of connection, I said, scanning the room at the smiling faces of familiar friends and new acquaintances alike. The event unfolded beautifully, with readings that brought to life the words of our contributors. Each story resonated in unique ways, touching the hearts of everyone present. When Sophia took the stage to share her narrative, her voice shook initially, but the audience leaned in, encouraging her to continue. The authenticity of her experience and emotion left us all profoundly moved. As the evening progressed, we created an unbreakable bond through shared vulnerabilities and triumphs. I shared meaningful moments with attendees. New friendships blossomed in the warmth of our collective understanding. We honored not only the tales told, but the shared humanity woven through each narrative. As the night drew to a close, I stood outside, the cool night air invigorating, and gazed at the stars overhead. Each twinkle felt like a representation of the countless lives lived, the stories waiting to be told. I realized we weren't just crafting a book. We were building a future rooted in connection and empathy. In that moment, I felt Mariana's energy envelop me, a reminder of our purpose. This journey was about more than preserving memories. It was about actively shaping a legacy that entwined our lives, breathing life into our past while guiding the way forward. As I stood there, absorbing the beauty of our shared experience, I understood that we were just beginning to peel back the layers of our collective narrative. The stories we exchanged weren't fleeting. They would resonate through future generations, igniting a spark that would keep our community bonded and strong. Together, we would continue to weave our rich tapestry of lives, ensuring every voice carried weight and significance. As dawn broke the following morning, casting warm hues of gold and pink across the sky, I felt a renewed sense of purpose surge through me. The launch event had ignited something within our community, transforming it into a space alive with stories and connections. I had awoken, eager to explore what this new chapter would bring. In the days that followed, the community book began to garner attention. News articles featured our initiative, local radio programs invited us to discuss the project, and word of mouth spread like wildfire. People came forward, excited to be part of our evolving narrative, wanting to share their experiences and contribute to the next edition. Karim and I organized regular meetings, creating workshops where participants could express themselves freely. New faces joined our community, adding freshness to our growing tapestry. Each workshop was filled with laughter, tears, and moments of catharsis as individuals poured their hearts into their words. I navigated through these inspiring sessions, thrilled to witness firsthand the healing power of storytelling. One rainy afternoon, while sipping herbal tea and listening to the sound of raindrops tapping against the window, I received a text from Sophia. "Can we meet? I've been thinking about something that might be important to share." Curiosity piqued, I quickly replied, setting a time to get together. When we met, she arrived holding a stack of papers, her expression serious yet hopeful. "I've been reflecting on everything we've shared," she began, her voice filled with a mixture of anxiety and determination. "I think there are more stories out there, hidden narratives that need to be revealed, voices from those who might feel like they can't speak." I leaned in, intrigued. "What do you mean?" There are women in our community who've experienced similar challenges, like migration and loss, but don't feel comfortable sharing their stories publicly. Maybe we could create a platform specifically for them, an initiative focused on empowering these voices. Sophia's idea captivated me. It resonated seamlessly with the mission we had already begun. That's brilliant. We could set up panels, host small group workshops, and even let them express their stories anonymously if they prefer, I suggested, the excitement bubbling in my chest. Together, we brainstormed how to make this happen, envisioning an event that would not only highlight forgotten voices, but also create an environment where everyone felt validated and respected. We decided to call it Voices Unveiled. In the weeks leading up to it, I met with various local organizations focused on supporting immigrants and women's rights, looking for partnerships that could provide resources and reach those who were currently silenced. Word spread quickly, and soon we were flooded with inquiries from participants eager to join. On the day of Voices Unveiled, the community center blossomed into a vibrant landscape of stories waiting to be shared. I stepped into the space early, arranging chairs in a circle and making sure everything was ready for our guests. The air buzzed with anticipation as mothers, daughters, and sisters began to fill the room. As I welcomed everyone, I felt the energy thrumming in the atmosphere. Today isn't just about sharing. It's about listening, honoring every single voice present. Each story is sacred, and today we create a safe haven for those stories to breathe. The event unfolded with heartfelt narratives that filled the hall. Each woman took her turn at the center, revealing aspects of their lives that had long remained hidden. There were stories of strength, adversity, and survival that resonated like gentle echoes, revealing how deeply connected we all were despite our varied experiences. I was particularly moved by a woman named Amara, who shared her journey of fleeing violence and seeking refuge in an unfamiliar land. The raw emotion in her voice captivated us, and when she finished, the audience erupted in applause. It was a moment of solidarity, an acknowledgement that we all stood together. As the day wore on, connections blossomed within the room. Attendees offered comfort and support to one another, exchanging stories even during breaks. I overheard laughter and saw tears, a potent mixture of catharsis and communal healing. By the end of the event, I could practically feel the threads of our tapestry tightening, weaving us more intricately together. As the afternoon light faded and the event wrapped up, I stood outside, a feeling of profound satisfaction enveloping me. I had sought to honor each voice, but it was obvious that I too was transformed through this experience. We had begun to shift the narrative around us, from isolation to unity, and I could feel Mariana's guiding presence, echoing my own thoughts. The journey was far from over. We were not just collecting stories, we were creating a movement. It was a promise that would carry on, inspiring kindness and connection in unexpected ways. And in this moment, I realized that we were becoming more than just a community. We were family, united by our stories and the heartfelt ties that would shape our legacy for generations to come.